Hi, everyone.
Hello, hi. Alex and I were watching some of our old videos, and we realized that in some of those videos we go through and we're saying like, this is the French room and this is the Panama room, and like we never really explained the reasoning behind why we call those rooms different countries or regions. So we just want to give you a little idea into our little minds, how our little minds and why we're doing that. So So obviously, Killoskehane is a very large property, and when it came from a design standpoint, it was very difficult to find places to start with each bedroom. You want each bedroom to look different and have its own voice, but also speak to the other bedrooms and have the whole place be kind of this cohesive design, but also each floor and each bedroom be kind of unique. So Alex had this really brilliant idea. One of the things that we love more than anything is traveling, and traveling the world helps you get inspiration for everyday life and your home and how you live. And so we were like, you know what? Some of these places that we've been to really have an impact on us. And so we decided to say, like, why don't we kind of name nicknames for each room, and we'll call it different things, and it kind of represents that area.
And it helps us to
Compartmentalize.
No, not only compartmentalize, but also to connect back to that feeling.
Yeah.
And say, like, what did we feel when we were in Italy, and why does it stand out, and how can we bring this feeling out in other people?
Yeah, exactly. And so we gave each room kind of a nickname. And even though it's like a country name, sometimes it doesn't mean it's just that country. It usually means the region or the inspiration behind it. Like, for example, Panama. Panama, we call it Panama, but it's actually South America, Central America, that whole region, because we went to Peru, we went to Colombia, and we just loved the style of that. Morocco, we call it Morocco, but it's actually like North Africa, Tunisia, Turkish bath, that kind of thing. So it's just the easy way to kind of figure out how we're going to do this, have a starting point, and pull the colors, the textures, the smells, the vibes. I don't know about the smells, but
no, it's true.
Yeah, just really
even the taste of the food.
Yeah,
right?
The taste of the food, what the food is, animal, nature, using all of that from those regions and applying it to how we design the bedroom. And like, you know, Morocco is a good example. You're going to see a lot of tile, a lot of mosaic tiles, a lot of mint greens, a lot of purples and turquoises, and that's kind of accented in everything, because you would see that in those parts of the world, and then it accents that room. But we also want to be very clear that it's not a theme, it's an inspiration, because sometimes
it's a full-on theme. It's like a Disney cruise.
We don't want you to, you're not going to walk in and be like, wow, I feel like I'm right in Panama, but it's just pulling from those regions and also putting our own stamp on it. Because like Alex said, this is our home, it's not a museum. We want it to represent us, and traveling is a big part of who we are.
That's very true. And so there might be pieces maybe from that country in that room because we really love them. But sometimes it's just the way that it made us feel, like Colin said earlier. So when you look at this, hopefully we can make you feel the same way that we did.
Yeah.
When you think about these old big houses, the manor houses, the castles, there were families that lived in there, and for multiple generations. And every generation at the time was adding something to it. Like basically like a big quilt where everybody adds something to it, which basically means they never really stood still. It's not that a place was built in the 1600s and they kept the furniture and the designs exactly the same all the way to the 20th century. That's not true, right? Every generation actually made adjustments to it, sometimes to the interior, sometimes to the furniture, sometimes to even the exterior, and completely redesigned it. Killoskehane actually went through the same transformation. We always say, like, well, it was originally built in 1580, but when the tower was built in 1580, it had 5 floors. Now the tower only has 3 floors, because in 1865, there was a massive remodel done to bring it up to standard at the time and to the aspects or like design at the time, right?
Yeah, they did a lot of big places at that time, which is why you see a lot of those places. In 1865, it looks like you're stepping back right into 1865.
And so that was just the style of the day. Now, when we move forward until the end of, let's say 1920, 1930s, a lot of these big houses fell into disrepair because the families that maybe lived there didn't have anybody to hand it over. They got too expensive to run. The land that supported them got a lot smaller afterwards. And so this is why when you walk into a lot of those big manor house hotels, hotels, it always feels the same because that's the style, the Victorian kind of era style, maybe a little bit updated, like I said, 1920s, 1930s, but this is when they're stuck. And this is how they were preserved. And for me, that feels a little bit like a museum, and it's not really true to the house. What we are doing here is we're just, the custodians of this house, and we're putting our own spin on this and adding to this beautiful fabric that had been created by all the generations beforehand. And hopefully somebody else who takes it over in 30, 40, 50 years is doing the same thing. And this building keeps on lived in and breathing and just, being evolving. Basically evolving, exactly, being the outcome of all the generations that came before us.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I don't know. That sounded very philosophical.
No, it was good. It's like we want to respect the history, but we also want to modernize it a little bit. And part of making it and respecting the history is modernizing it.
Modernizing it. Who knew?
Who knew? Anyway, that's a little bit into our minds about how we have to say all the rooms though. There's Africa, San Francisco.
Which do you want to rename?
Which might be New Mexico. Because Africa is because Alex was born in Namibia. And then we've got Far East inspired room, which is really cool. Then we've got the Panama inspired room, which is obviously Central South America. And then we've got Italy, which is its own region. Morocco, France, which is its own. France and Italy, they're just top of the game with the design anyway. And then we have the Irish inspired room, which is representing Ireland and Killoskehane.
It's really representing the castle itself, right?
Yeah.
So the Irish room, when we talk about the Irish room, it's basically the Killoskehane room. That's the room that when you walk in, you're going like, okay, this is representing the castle.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we hope that you guys can see him. But at the end of the day, it's just a little bit of cosmetic work, right? You can always peel off wallpaper and change the paint.
I know.
It's really just that. The bones are there and they'll always be there and they'll always be the same. So anyway.
I hope that helped a little bit. See you soon.